Hello there and welcome. You are in the zone, the Biz Info Zone, and you're in the Biz Info Zone show. My name is Lynn Hawkins. I'm your host, and we've got an exciting show for you today. One of my favorite topics, branding. And we've got the branding expert herself, Danielle Miller, here. And before we get started, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to all of our viewers who join us every week right here in the zone. I appreciate you, and I want you to know that this is for you. This is for you to be able to express your purpose, plan your next move, set up those action steps, and implement so that you can take your business and your life into the realm of prosperity. And when you earn more, you do more good in the world, and you can choose to do even more. And that's what social entrepreneurship is all about. That's what the new social enterprise is all about. And we're going to talk about branding today, how to unlock your brand DNA. And we're going to give you the keys to a brand that imprints, influences, and impacts your business and your life. Guest Danielle Miller is a best-selling author, speaker, a brand nurturer, and a business strategist who works with women entrepreneurs and small businesses to help them craft a brand that shows up and stands out, that speaks candidly about what makes your brand work for you and not work against you. And, it's amazing because Danielle has done some work that has garnered her the recognition that brings her to the forefront. It's what got me to notice her. And she's the author of Smarty Pants Branding, the ultimate guide for women entrepreneurs to getting recognized, being remembered, and making more money in business. She writes, she speaks, she teaches about the undeniable power of personal branding in the digital age. And she's shared the stage with women like Martha Stewart, Ariana Huffington, Sarah Blakely, and she's even been featured in Fit Sugar and Lip Gloss Culture and the Entrepreneur Gazette, as well as having done numerous radio, podcast, and web TV interviews. And I want to say welcome to her, but let's talk about what we're going to talk about because she's got some amazing stuff for us. One of the things that I happen to know is that most entrepreneurs don't really understand what brand is, much less know what their brand DNA is. And they're focusing on the wrong things in their brands. And, today we're going to speak candidly. We're going to talk openly about what makes the best brand, how to leverage your brand and position yourself as the expert, and keep you top of mind for your potential clients so that as you're attracting them to you. And, this is the part that I love. It's all about the sustainable income because, again, when you earn more, when you're bringing more revenue into your business, you can do more good in the world. That said, and with no further ado, I want to say hello to our guest, Ms. Danielle Miller. Hi, Danielle. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lynn. Thank you for having me today. I'm so delighted to be here on this absolutely, I don't know about your neck of the woods, but here's a spectacular spring day. I have the windows open. So you might hear papers rustling around because I am determined I am not closing windows today.
Beautiful. And it is truly beautiful here as well in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm so excited that the weather has gotten to where I can go out and hang out. I can have the windows open. So yes, beautiful. So Danielle, first question, and I just want to jump right into this. What was your path to this point upon which you decided women entrepreneurs, building brand DNA, visual brand, the whole branding sense that you bring to the world? Tell us how you got on this journey to helping women to find this space for themselves.
So my background is in education. I am a certified special education teacher. I did that for about 15 years. And I, I was at a time in my life where my kids were young, they were growing up. I wanted a profession that was very safe, very secure, very stable, where I could be available for my kids. And teaching was just a natural fit for me. I am, by my nature, I'm a teacher. And so that was a very great career path for me for a long time. But as I moved through my career, I had a lot of autonomy in the special education field. I was able to develop my own curriculum. I worked with toddlers up to adult learners, and was able to have quite a bit of freedom in what I wanted to teach. And that changed probably the last 5 years of my teaching career. Core standards came in, and it didn't matter whether you were a disabled learner or not. You still were held to the same standards that typically developing students were as well. And that really rankled with me. One of the reasons I got into special education was because of the nature of it being individualized and being able to help others bring their unique gifts and talents to the table. Maybe not by the typical route that most people did, but everybody has gifts to bring to the table. Everybody has strengths. Everybody has their unique power source that they can tap into. And I became more and more disillusioned with the educational field, and decided, that was about 2007. And I really kind of got tuned into life coaching. And I saw how a lot of families were struggling with that balance of trying to care for and help their child, as well as maintain their careers and their home life and all that kind of thing. And so I thought, well, this is kind of cool. I'd really like to learn more about life coaching and how maybe I could work with families. And so I got my life coaching certification. And I did that for a little bit. I was still teaching full time. The life coaching was the side hustle. And then I started to move into career coaching, because I was really fascinated with people's journey and what they wanted to do next and what motivated them, and how they could find fulfillment in the work that they did, because it's such an important component of our lives, our work, right?
Yeah.
It's huge. And so I started moving into that realm, and I made the leap to leave education and pursue career coaching. And in 2008, 2009, I got very sick, and I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I lost half my colon. And in the space of 9 months, I had 4 surgeries. And I had been sort of limping along in my life coaching business. It was more of an expensive hobby. And being sick for that year, my business totally crashed and burned. You know, I had to start all over again. And at that point, it was sort of a watershed moment. Do I want to go back to teaching, or am I going to try to make this business work? And so I hired a mentor and a business coach. And it was at that time that I really got tuned into the idea of branding and what it really meant to brand yourself, and figuring out what your strengths were, and figuring out what your core values were, and your vision and your mission, and things that you really wanted to accomplish in the world, and how you wanted to bring that to the table. And that, it was like a light bulb. It was an epiphany. And it was the perfect blend of creativity and strategy for me. And so I started pursuing that full time in 2010. And that's what I've been doing since. I'm a brand strategist for entrepreneurs. I'm fascinated by the digital landscape, the connectivity that we have in this global space that we live in, and how you can connect with people. And I'm just enthralled with it. And so that's sort of continued to hone who I wanted to work with. And I wanted to work with women entrepreneurs who were, just really had that yearning inside to do something more, to be something more, and how did they want to make their imprint in the world. And so that has led me to where I am today.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. And, think it's key that you really, and I appreciate, I want to thank you for sharing that watershed moment piece of your story, because there's so many of us who come through the evolving in our lives and in our businesses. And it is some moment that we realize that it's about the decision that we make about who we want to be and what we choose to do to give into the world, that really sets us up for, I think, living some of the best times of our lives.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about brand and branding and bringing those things into light in business. And I know that, when I first started out in business, I thought branding was, what you hear on the shallow reports about branding. Your color, you need a business card, you need a logo, you need this, you need that, and just make them match, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
But they could still do all of that and serve their purpose for making sure that people know how to connect with you, but they themselves are not connected with you. So what's your process? What's your methodology?
Okay, that's a great question. That's a great question. And you'll have to excuse, I have Bailey, the wonder dog, in my office today. She just barked. So I don't know if y'all heard that, but I'm sorry. She's old and doesn't usually do that, but apparently a car went down the road, so she had to get her voice in there somewhere. But so that's the really interesting thing about branding, is because typically, when I was first exposed to it, was all about, your website and what colors do you want on your website, your fonts, a logo, a tagline, and let me be very clear here. Visual identity is extremely important in branding, without a doubt. But if you don't understand the why behind it, and if you don't have a firm foundation to build off of when you start doing those things, it's not going to be resonant. It's not going to be aligned. And I couldn't, I'd hired other business coaches as I started the life coaching practice and the career coaching, and I would hear the latest marketing strategy to do. Well, you need to upsell this, cross sell that, downsell this, add a yellow payment button to your website and this. But I had no foundation to build upon, or I didn't understand why do I need to do that? Why, what's the reasoning behind it? Well, you'll sell more of this, you'll sell more of that. Okay, but again, I couldn't get in alignment behind it. And I struggled and I struggled and I struggled. And again, so the branding piece came in, and here's what I found. Okay, now if I can define my core values and what's really important to me, and what are the non-negotiable things in my life that I have to have in order to operate my business and my personal life in a way that feels really good, then I have a North Star to work off of. Then I have something that I can judge every decision that I make in my business against. Does this fit with my core values? If it doesn't, it doesn't go. It doesn't go in my business. And so that was kind of like this watershed moment for me. My core values. That's a place to start. And then I had read Carolyn Mace's Sacred Contracts, which is all about archetypes. And that was another sort of light bulb thing that happened. And then I was fascinated by that. And I read everything I could get my hand on about archetypes. And there's a book by Pearson and Mark called The Hero and the Outlaw. And it's all about how these archetypes can be applied to brands, big brands. You think about Harley Davidson being a rebel, and Ivory Soap being innocent. And that was another light bulb moment for me as a teacher, because I recognized the fact that this is a beautiful way and a resonant way to be able to tell your story. It's a way to have people connect with you on a very unconscious and natural level, and without it being forced and feeling that you're something that you're not. And I found that was the foundation to build on in terms of language that I wanted to use, and language that felt good to me, and marketing, being able to market myself in a way that was genuine, and dare I say the overused word authentic, but felt really good. It felt really, really good, and it was fun. So that was that was a huge thing for me. And so when I started doing that with other women entrepreneurs, I've continued to refine that methodology and refine that framework. And so, but it all starts with core values. It all starts with your core values. You've got to get clear on that.
Oh my gosh, I totally agree. I was telling someone just yesterday, when you understand what those core values are, even if you're in that enrollment conversation and you can feel the resistance, you can tell from the conversation that there's something amiss, then you have the opportunity to extend your choice.
Yep.
And choose to bring them in with you and choose to bring the disharmony and the discordance, or choose to say, as I'm thinking about this, maybe, and even if you know someone to recommend them to, right. I think that's a greater solution than just letting them go and letting them continue to go down the path that they're going. But it truly is about knowing your own core values and being able to stand in those in order to align with others. And how do you bring that determination into the work that you're doing? What is there an assessment that you use, or how are you bringing people to understanding what those core values are that they then can stand in and really build a brand around?
Yeah, so I do. There's work that I do in that framework around figuring out what your core values are and figuring out the top 3 to 5 core values. Any more than that, things start to get diluted and they start to get diffused. So you want to be very concise about this and very clear that these are the absolute non-negotiable things that are in your life. So what I like to do with clients is I talk to them about, okay, so when in your life were you the most angry? Because guaranteed, if there was something that got you so fired up, it violated a core value of yours. Maybe it was somebody taking credit for all the work that you did. Maybe it was somebody abusing a trust that you had with them. Maybe it was somebody being disrespectful. It could be really anything. Maybe it was a time when you had absolutely no money and no prospects of abundance in your life. So, it could be any of those really times in your life when you have felt very strong emotions, and it works the other way as well. When were you the most happy in your life, the most fulfilled? What were you feeling at that time? What were you doing? Chances are that's a core value as well. And so I have an exercise that I do with clients, and I give them, it's a PDF, and it has about 100 different values on there. And, I say, just go through and underline, highlight, whatever you need to do, whatever feels resonant to you. We start there. And a lot of times there's about 25, maybe 30 values that they say, okay, I really feel that this is important to me. And then we start narrowing that down. So are there values maybe that we could group together? So maybe we could group caring, kindness, and respect together. Maybe we could group wealth, abundance, fulfillment together, whatever that looks like. And you start separating these out into these overarching categories. And you pick those out of those 3 or 4. Which one feels the most resonant to you? And then maybe you narrow that down to about 10 values. So you have those listed, and I would say to you, okay, what's more important to you? Kindness or fun? Oh, kindness. Okay, so that goes there. We'll put that there. And we'll go through and we'll continue to narrow these values down for you. And again, that's not to say that the values that are not in your top 3 to 5 are not important to you. But again, you're talking about those things that are absolutely non-negotiable, that you have to have them in your life in order for you to feel fulfilled, in order for you to feel successful, in order to feel like you're happiest. And so that's typically how I go about doing that. And the other thing to understand too is, your values change over time. When I was teaching, I was really concerned about security and stability. And now that my kids are out of the nest and I don't have that responsibility, those values are not quite as important to me now. Still, of course, important, but autonomy and freedom are more important to me. Independence is more important to me. You know, that's how you can kind of figure those things out, because as you grow and evolve, your values are going to change over time.
Uh-oh, where'd you go? Uh-oh.
So, oh, you're back.
Yes. Okay. I don't know what's
So,
going on there.
yeah. A little glitchy today. That's all right. It happens.
It does, but I love that your values do change over time. That is evolution. That
Absolutely.
is the evolving into the higher and better self.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the three that you talked about: autonomy, freedom, independence. Those are the three of mine too at the top. Being able to really stand in those, and expression,
Yeah.
the ability to express and be heard and do good in the world. Those are some really high value ones for me as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so important to figure those out for yourself, and not think that you have to have a set for your personal life and a set for your business life. I mean, because that tends to get, you know, kind of weird too, as you're trying to pick and choose. Well, I really value one thing in my business, and I value something over here in my personal life. So you want to try to have this overarching 3 to 5 values that just are about your life in general. And the other thing that you really want to make sure that you do is define them for yourself, because my idea of flexibility might be very different from your idea of flexibility.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you define what they look like for you and your particular situation. That's very important as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I know that with having mentioned Carolyn Miss's book and really studying the archetypes and the archetypal structure, tell us about how you bring that concept into this work that you do.
Okay. Yeah, oh gosh, I could talk about archetypes all day. I love them. So archetypes they were originally talked about by Carl Jung, and he talked about them as a way to shortcut meaning. They are unconscious stories that are encoded in our DNA. And we all have degrees of these archetypes within us. So it's not just, there are 12 main archetypes that I work with. There are hundreds of archetypes. And we all have them within us to some varying degree. But we all have ones that are stronger than others. And what happens is when you identify your leading archetype, you're able then to effortlessly connect with your ideal audience and your right clients, because you have gotten so in tune and aligned with your leading archetype that it gives you confidence, you're resonant, you have clarity around your message, and it's done on a subconscious level without us even realizing it. So for example, think about brands that you really resonate with. As an example, think of Harley Davidson. People are fanatical if they ride Harley Davidsons. I mean, people have Harley Davidson tattooed on their bodies. They are so emotionally connected to that brand, right? Think about whether you're an Apple user or a PC user. Mac people, it's Mac or nothing, There's an emotional connection there without you even realizing you have done it. And that's really the power of archetypes that can have for you. And I often talk about, I like to use chocolate as an example because I love chocolate. So let me tell you this. So Godiva chocolate, romantic, and they talk about the passion of chocolate. And then you have M&Ms. M&Ms are very fun-loving, present moment, party, good time, right? And then you have, let's see, let me think of another one here. Volsage Chocolate, which is a gourmet chocolate company. It's a company that I use to send chocolates to my clients too that I love. But they're a seeker archetype. They're in their mission statement. They travel the world through chocolate. They have given you a picture. They have given you something to connect to. At the end of the day, it's all chocolate. But each one has their unique message and their languaging, and they have created an experience in their brand for you. So it's incredible, the power of archetypes and using them to really hone in on who your ideal people are and what your message is. So, end of rant.
I love it. I love it. What a creative way to actually bring you to the expression of who you are. And I love that, travel the world through chocolate. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What a way to travel the world.
Right. And it's a perfect personification of that archetype because they have all these very exotic flavors that they use and combinations that they do their chocolate in and really exploration and sort of pushing the envelope a little bit on what's possible through the journey of chocolate. And it's wonderfully, I mean, it's a beautiful brand to use as an example because there again, we're talking about chocolate, but they have each company has used their archetype in a way to unconsciously bind their audience to them, make that emotional connection. And that's so important in a brand. It doesn't matter if you are a solopreneur, you have a team, you're a small business, a big business. The bottom line is you want to be able to create those connections with your ideal audience and your right clients. And archetypes are a wonderful way to do that.
I agree. It is truly the concept of authentic branding when you can use something like your archetype to help you not just be clear about what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're bringing to the world, but your message. And I know that a lot of us get stuck. You talk about doing your 30-second elevator speech or that signature speech.
Yeah.
And until you really identify into who it is that you are and what it is that you are attempting to put out into the world, can you get that messaging really clear? And, I thought it was very interesting to see on your website these 3 words that are very connective words for me when you think about branding and this authentic branding and using the archetypes to help identify and clarify things. And it goes from imprint to influence to impact. And I am huge in the impact factor. And what kind of good you can do in the world. You have an impact in the world whether you do something or not. Even not doing it's like choice. You can make a choice or you cannot make a choice, and not making a choice is still making a choice.
Exactly. You're a brand if you do and a brand if you don't.
I like that. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And those 3 words, they're very prominent in the work that you do. So tell us a little bit about how you kind of came into that and the flow of those words and what they really mean as far as branding is concerned.
Yeah, I really wanted to land on words that I felt encapsulated my concept of what I feel a brand is, because it goes way deeper than the visual and verbal branding. And again, those things are super important because that's how you help create those connections with people. But really, it's about the experience that somebody has with you. It's about what they think about you when you're not around, if they're thinking about you at all, which is what a brand does. It's about when you walk out of the room at a networking event, have you left an imprint? Do people say, "Oh my gosh, I really want to talk to her some more"? I'm glad I have her card. I can go check her website out. I really enjoyed, how she made me feel, because that's what branding is about. It's about feelings. It's about emotions. It's about how you make somebody else feel when you have very clearly articulated that and clarified that for yourself, what you want people to think and feel about you. And that's the imprint. So you can either build that imprint on sand, and when the tide comes in and washes it away your imprint, or you can set it in concrete. So it's there. And when you make that imprint, then you are positively influencing those around you. You don't have to call yourself an influencer. You don't have to, call yourself a thought leader. By the very nature of you determining your core values, standing up for what you believe in, the feelings that you want people to have about you, you're influencing. And that in turn creates your impact, because that's what you believe, what your mission is, and what you believe you can do to impact people and change their lives. That's what a brand is. So those three words were so important to me as I thought about, really what I wanted my business to stand for, and what I wanted to teach people about branding, and what I wanted to help them realize their potential in. So that's how those words came about.
That's beautiful. I really appreciate that, to the extent that those words have meaning in themselves, and then they also bring meaning to you conceptualizing your brand. And I love how you talked about, your brand DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of what these words bring to you. They have that, you mentioned that imprint on others, but is actually the imprint that you are mirroring with others, right? Because it's your imprint that others are seeing and feeling.
Yes.
And so tell us a little more about what your concept is when you talk about brand DNA.
So brand DNA, again, it comes off of when you've defined your values. It comes off of the feelings that you want other people to have about you. It's the feelings you feel about yourself. It's the traits, the characteristics that you want to be known for. It's the vibe that you want others to have about you as you move through the world. And everybody's is unique. And so when you find out all of those pieces and you put them together in this beautiful mosaic, it's almost like all these levers click into place. And there is nothing more, what's the word I'm looking for? Beautiful about a brand than when you're confident. And that's what happens when you put all these things in place, because that confidence just comes naturally. It's not something that you have to fake. It's not a fake it till you make it kind of thing. You're very grounded in what you bring to the table, your strengths, your gifts, those things that you innately know that you're good at. And that's really what branding does for you. It unlocks that DNA for you, and it puts you in control of what you bring to the table, rather than people thinking, there's this saying out there, it's not, your brand isn't what you say it is, it's what others say it is. Yeah. I don't believe that for a second. When you know your value, then yes, then it is what other people say, because you've already established that for yourself. You lead the conversation, not the other way around.
I love that. And, again, that is how so many, especially new entrepreneurs, new women entrepreneurs, get stuck. Mm-hmm. Because they may know that they have their certain skill sets and they know how to deliver what it is that they're here to do. Mm-hmm. Yet the thing that gets them stuck is that they're trying to identify with a brand that either doesn't have the connection to life, that heart that they are. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how you brought all of this so together like this, and express it mm-hmm. the way that you do, because who would have thought brand DNA? The mirror of me is what I see coming back to me. And it even happens, in your business cards and your website and all of it in harmony.
Mm-hmm. Right.
you to stand in the confidence that you talked about.
That's right. That's exactly right. And, and like I said, again, that visual identity and that verbal identity, they are so critical. They are very important components of your brand, but you've got to get clear on the inner work first. And again, you're not going to have all the answers to start out. The only way you get to the answers is by being. And then those things start to flow for you. So it can be very uncomfortable for women entrepreneurs who are just starting out, because there are a lot of shoulds, there are a lot of expectations. Well, I should be more corporate, or I should be this, in this field or category. And that's not what this is about at all. It's not about personas. It's not about being something that you're not. It's about amplifying yourself to the best degree that you can.
And when you talk about, the thing that most entrepreneurs are focusing on, or the things, and they're the wrong things, this is what you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is bringing the corporate into your personal business. However, if that's all you know, then, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But that's the process of evolution that we were talking about.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, if that's what that's where you start. But then as you continually refine and develop and grow and evolve, those other components are going to come out, and they're going to start to shine, and you're going to want them to come out. You're going to want to be known a specific certain way. There's a difference between corporate and professional, and you want to be, obviously, in your brand, you want to be professional. You want to show your expertise. You want to show that you know what you're talking about, but you want to do it with your own unique personality and your own spark and your own brand DNA that you develop as you start to really do your own work in the world. So.
And let's talk about this visual and verbal again. I recall you speaking on both of those, actually, as not just the verbal, your message, whether it's your infomercial, your 30-second elevator speech, or your signature speech. It's more than that, and it has to do with what?
It has to do with your for verbal identity, it has to do with your tone and your voice. The visual components of that come forth, once you have really determined the voice and vibe of your brand, then you can start to represent that in a visual way. So, you can sort of start defining parameters for yourself. Some of the work I do with clients, we talk about, well, I'm irreverent, but I'm not silly. I'm kind, but I'm not a pushover. So we start looking at those type of things. How are we going to really hone in on your vibe, and what? Again, we always go back to the emotions and feelings. What is it that you want people to feel when they land on your website? And each page is different. What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do when they get on your homepage? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do when they land on your about page? It's all of those things that combined together. It's a very holistic picture. Initially, it seems sort of separated out, but again, it all comes back to being a complete holistic picture. Verbally, and this is where archetypes come in so powerfully, because we can start to look at language. So if you're leading archetypes in Alchemist, natural language for you, you're going to talk about transformation. You're going to talk about being a catalyst. You're going to talk about change. You're going to talk about being a visionary. You're going to talk about possibility and potential. If you're a caregiver, you're going to talk about nurturing, supporting. It's all really then where you start to really hone in on that language. Verbal identity is just as important as visual identity, and it all works together in your brand. So, and it's a process. It's a framework. It's a process that for each individual is different.
And I can certainly understand why. And that voice and vibe that you mentioned, I also see being a frequency. within which you personally come from.
Yep.
You do your business, to do your life, and if there's fear involved versus abundance thinking,
Yep.
or abundance being,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to feel those vibes coming in there.
Yep.
And how do you help people really shift into the voice and the vibe that they want?
Ooh, I love this question. I love this question. So I call it fine-tuning your frequency. And here's, again, I'm going to go back to archetypes. Archetypes also have a shadow side. And that's the side that can keep people stuck without them even realizing it. So let me give you an example from the sage archetype. The sage archetype is known for being wise, for having lots of information, for being known for their expertise. And that's very important to the sage. They want to be known for that. They want to be known as the go-to, the informational person, very wise. But the shadow side of that is they're never done learning. There's always something, there's always another program for them to take. There's always another course they need to take. There's always another certification that they need to get taken in order to feel like an expert, in order to feel grounded in that information. They can go down rabbit holes and be researching for days and days and days and days on end without getting anything done. And so that's where that shadow comes in, because, that's not going to move you forward. You can have all the information in the world, and unless you're taking action on it, it's not going to move you forward. And that's where when you understand that shadow of your archetype, you can kind of say, okay, I need to reframe this. I have enough. It's good enough right now. I can move forward. I can take what I've learned. I have enough information. I can go and I can apply it. I can use it. I can take action on it. So understanding those shadows in the archetypes are equally important, because those are sort of those unconscious blocks and obstacles that can keep you from getting where you want to go. And so that's another thing that we look at as well. So.
Wow. I can totally see how people would have the misconception that branding, only because it makes it easier, so people think, to be in the business cards and the logo and the this and the that, versus really get to understanding who the person is and how to align with the cards and the colors and the energy, the frequency, the voice and the vibe. And this is for me, and having been in business all the years that I've been in business and been a part of marketing teams, this is a new paradigm. Mm-hmm. This is a shift into the place of higher consciousness, mm-hmm. that the social entrepreneur truly is in. And when we talk about building social enterprise, it is all of these things that come into play, and wrapping them all together in this beautiful red bow means sustainable income. So take us, if you can, if you will, from the point of this exercise of archetypal identification and really honing in on this frequency and this vibration that you want to give out in your messaging and in your visuals, to the resultant income. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about.
Yeah, that's another great question. And so here's the interesting thing about branding. When you do this work, it raises your confidence level. It raises your value level. You have a deep and thorough understanding of the value that you bring to the table, because we tend to underestimate our value. We tend to think that people aren't going to pay for what we do because it's so easy for us. And because it's so easy for us, who's going to pay for that? Must be easy for everyone. And that's simply not true. So when you do this work, you really get in alignment with your strengths and your gifts, and the understanding that what you bring to the table, that special sauce that you have, nobody else has. Nobody else can tell your story and your experiences like you can. And so, and I speak from 100% walking that journey myself. Everything that I talk about, I have gone through. I understand it. I get it. And that's how it's evolved into such a passion for me. But the confidence level that you get, and the intrinsic knowing, the value and the worthiness that you bring to the table, because you have clearly identified all of those components and elements in your brand, it raises that, I'm going to get a little woo, it raises that vibrational level as well. And it's an unconscious thing that people are just drawn to. And that's what allows you to feel comfortable in a place of where you charge what you charge and your services are what they are. And again, it's an evolution. It's a journey. And everybody gets to the places on the journey at different times. So everybody's journey is individual. And that's totally okay. It's totally okay. So, I think that's it in a nutshell. It's just gaining that self-confidence.
Very well put. Oh my gosh. And to our audience, I really want you to think about the fact that, we've all heard the guidance on branding. What we have not heard is how to bring that branding guidance into who we are, why we're doing what we're doing, what's the heart story that your branding can help tell as you're out in the marketplace and you're wanting your ideal clients and your ideal audience to see you and to hear you and to know, intuitively know that they are being drawn to work with because you have what they offer. This conscious self-awareness is, the premise that we're stepping up to. That is actually a higher level than branding that has been taught before allowed us to be in. And I love it because when your brand actually expresses the true mission and vision of your business, then you can move, as Danielle said, more easily and in flow and in grace and in ease. And I am these days all about the ease and flow. And for our audience, I want you to know that I'm here with Danielle Miller of, what's the name of your company, Danielle?
It's Danielle Miller International.
Danielle Miller International, and she's an international branding expert. And with what she brings to the table, she not only touches the branding, how do I look visually and how do I sound verbally? It's the combination of the two, but even the combination of the two don't allow your feet to be on the ground and you be able to stand in confidence if it's not what you believe in your heart. And this brand archetype and the authentic branding, the impact, just the whole imprint, influence, and impact factor that she speaks about is what and I encourage you to learn more about. And in doing so, I know that Danielle has brought something to our audience, and I really want us to get into the conversation about this too. Danielle, you've brought a gift to our audience because it is truly your mission to help them to own their brand, be visible with their brand, be vulnerable with their brand, yet attract their ideal clients and customers with their brand. And so what have you brought to share with us today that will allow our audience to play a little more with you?
Well, there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can go to my website, daniellemiller.com, and you can take the archetype quiz. And you do not even have to opt in. You'll learn your leading archetype right there. You don't even have to do that. But if you want the more in-depth archetypal code guide that will really talk about the shadow, it will talk about the strengths and gifts of your particular archetype. It'll give you examples of your archetype in action, people who are the embodiment of that archetype as well. It'll give you languaging and key phrases that are resonant with that archetype. Then yeah, you can opt in and you can get that guide. And it's pretty thorough. I created all of them myself, and I have to say they're pretty darn good. So you can do that. I'm actually going to be doing a webinar tomorrow. I don't have the link for it, but I'm doing a webinar on being the you factor in your brand and not the X factor. So I'm going to talk a little bit about more about leading archetypes. I'm also going to talk about the differences between branding, and marketing, because they're very different and people use them interchangeably. And again, here's where I want to really change the paradigm of brand and branding, because they're not the same and people get them confused all the time. And I want to talk about, again, core values and how that's really the most essential element. If you do nothing else with your brand, get clear on your core values. Get clear on those 3 to 5 things that are non-negotiable for you. It will serve you so well in moving forward. It will give you more confidence in moving forward because it will help you make decisions in your brand. It will help you get to really understand what your message is, what your mission is, build your platform. It's a vital piece of your brand strategy. Don't be worried that having a brand is seen as contrived or fake or a persona or something that you're not. It's simply you amplified. It's bringing your very best to the table, being of service, knowing how you can help others, owning your own value that you bring, and not downplaying that in any way. It's not a self-promotion, yay, look at me kind of thing. It's just a very a comfortable, aligned way of being your best self.
Beautiful. And the being your best self in business really is a reflection of your brand, and your brand is the what's center in you that's coming through in your work and being expressed out into the world. And I really appreciate the fact that you've gone through the time and effort to identify these archetypes, to identify how to interpret them, and have brought that gift to our audience. And then the webinar tomorrow, I want to give everyone the link so that you can find that information. You can go to skyhawkenterprises.biz/brand, BRAND, and you will be able to find the page to sign up for Danielle's webinar that's happening tomorrow, Friday, May 15th. And you know what? This is so beautiful because this week, and this is a branding element too. This is something that over the last couple of years, I've really gotten into the space of expressing the energetic stuff around what I've been getting messages about. And one of them has been about this week and the energy that's flowing this week around our businesses. And the numbers that mean so much in interpreting where we are and the possibilities and the infinite potential that we are in right now. And today, well, all week, the dates of this week have been reversible.
Yes.
So, like today, 5/14/15, turn it around and it's 5/14/15. Now tomorrow is actually a higher energetic day because of all of those numbers. You only have 2 that are in that repetitious stage that flipped they are the same thing, and that's 5-15-15. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you're in the space of wanting to identify more as far as how you can connect with your brand and bring the truth of who you are to your brand so that it speaks for you as you speak for you and for the work that you do, I highly recommend you being there tomorrow, 5-15-15 for Danielle's workshop. Danielle, why don't you tell everyone what time that's going to be?
It's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern time, and it will be about 45 minutes. So, and I also need to tell you, this is a brand new webinar platform. So I don't know if there's going to be glitches. I've had a couple people who've tried to sign. Apparently Safari, if you use Safari browser, it's very glitchy with it. So I highly recommend, if you register for the webinar, please use Firefox or Chrome. That seems to be working the best. The developers are working on it. I know the guy who developed this whole platform, and he's a great guy, and they're working very hard to get this up and running. It's just launched, so there are going to be some tech things, and I could wait until they get all those bugs worked out and do it in a month, but I don't want to wait. I want to share that information now. So and I also want to say, if you have been moving the furniture around in your website, if you've been tweaking, and if you've been worrying about colors and fonts and taglines, and do you need a logo, and do you need a business name, stop doing that. Stop it. Stop doing that. Start doing the work. Just start doing the work. And I promise you, things will fall into place. I promise you. So that's one thing. Please stop. Stop tweaking your website. Don't do it anymore until you start doing the work. Just start showing up every day, owning it and showing up, and that will make a huge difference.
Owning it and showing up, it will evolve.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's the beauty of this. And I want to make sure that everyone got that link. It's Skyhawk Enterprises with an S on the end, .biz, BIZ /brand. Skyhawkenterprises.biz /brand. It has truly been a pleasure to be in this space with you today, Danielle. This information was amazing. I actually am going to have all of my coaching clients to actually watch this video, because it just brings so much into perspective, and the perspective being the shifted paradigm of branding that speaks to you are your brand.
Yep.
And bringing your heart into your business and into your brand. That's what social entrepreneurship is all about. And that's where we want to help our clients and customers to really get who we are, why we're doing what we're doing, and be able to do it to the best of our ability. And you know, the whole process of branding that we didn't talk about was the ability that when your brand is visually reflective of you and has that energetic vibe, and your message is clearly articulating who it is that you are, what it is that you do, and your core values all in it, you actually help people to self-select. And that is how the law of attraction actually works to its highest and best for your ideal clients to come out of the places they've been hiding.
Yep.
Show up for you. So Danielle,
that's exactly right.
Tell our audience, wrap this all up for our audience, and give our audience, you know, one thing, the thing that you think is most important for them to walk away with as they continue to contemplate all that we've talked about today.
Oh boy, that's hard to narrow down. Branding, having a brand is not static, it's dynamic. It is going to change, it's going to grow, it's going to evolve. You're going to mess up, you're going to make mistakes, you're not perfect. Nobody expects you to be perfect. At the end of the day, people connect with people. We don't connect with a brand or a company, we connect with the person who had the idea, the concept. So when you get crystal clear about that and you really hone in on it, amazing things happen. So, that's really, at the end of the day, we connect with each other. It's about connection. People crave that in the digital age. So as much as you can provide that to your audience, and again, people select themselves in or out, and that's okay, because you're unique. You're not a good fit for everybody. I'm not a good fit for everybody. So give people the very clear opportunity to select themselves in or out. And you'll do them and yourself a giant, huge favor. So that's it.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much, Danielle. This has just really been enlightening and a great opportunity for the Biz Info Zone members to get this clearer understanding around branding. Those of you who are in our audience, thank you again for joining us today, whether you're here live or you're watching the replay. Thank you for entrusting us to bring you the news and the information that can help you to do more business, do bigger business, and do more good in the world. This is Lynn Hawkins, your host, with our guest Danielle Miller, brand expert and just archetypal guru who's brought some amazing information to us today. Thanks, Danielle, and thank you for joining us. And we'll see you right here again next week when our guest is going to be Brian Ridgway of Conscious Creators and Conscious Entrepreneurs, and he's going to talk about some amazing stuff too. So we'll see you next week. Thanks again for joining us today. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.